Hi, this is Skim.net. My name's Erin.
My name is Charles, and today we're going to show you how to make the Athena Gladiator from Borderlands, the pre-sequel sword with LED. Stay tuned to find out how.
So the first thing we did was we cut out the shape of the blade in plexiglass and then sanded it down to make sure it was smooth so it didn't cut anyone with a Dremel. We then sanded the blade of it with 220 grit sandpaper to give you that kind of scuff look on the blade. This is to make sure that the light diffuses through it so you don't lose it, so you can actually see the color from the LEDs. I then attached the hilt. Since plexiglass wasn't long enough, we had to do hilt separately. The hilt is just two pieces of plexiglass, and then we then bolted them through the blade so that it held it all together. The sword has a nick in it in the back. It's just how Athena's sword is, but this causes what's called a stress concentrator, which is just an area where it's going to easily break. It sits on the handle like that. I ended up reinforcing it with some metal rods and some epoxy and duct tape to make sure that it was going to hold together through the whole process. Athena's sword also has a handguard on it, as well as this like bumpy thing that's under the main body of the sword before the blade. So right now you can see Erin cutting out the EVA foam to fit under there, and she used popsicle sticks as a support structure so we could stick it into the EVA foam and then epoxy it to it. Then I cut out the foam that was going to go over the main blade part and just adjusted its shape around the plexiglass to make sure that I had about ½ an inch above that so we could adjust it. Alright, the next part we did was I had to attach the contacts to the LED. Now we're going to have two LED strips running down the sword on both sides. I'll have the LED strips that we used from Amazon linked below, so you can use those exact same ones. These particular ones have a red, green, and blue contact on them and a positive out. So basically you need to run negative current or negative voltage, whatever you want to call it, into the LED strip, and then you want to take the positive back out. Now for these particular ones, they run off a 12 volt power. So I used two 9 volts, which was 18 volts. So it's a little bit of an over voltage, but whatever. The point is that you can take these two 9 volts, put them in serial, which means that you have the negative of one connected to the positive of another, and then you use the remaining contacts, which will just be a positive and a negative, and you run those to whatever your electronics are. Okay, so we wanted a pink color, so we needed to have a blue and a red contact on this. We found that just having the red and the blue have the exact same voltage into them gave us the right pinkish purplish color that we wanted, so we just had to run it straight into those. So basically, since you have these four contacts, we needed to run voltage into the red contact, negative voltage into the blue contact, and then we needed to do positive voltage into the black contact. So that means that the positive terminal of your two 9 volt batteries are going to be wired to the positive contact on the LED, and then your other two, you're going to have to, from the negative contact on your 9 volt battery series, you need to have a wire coming out that goes to a resistor, like a 1K resistor. This is just to make sure that the 9 volt batteries that are in series don't drain really quick. If you don't do this, your batteries will go out in about 5 minutes. If you do it, they'll last for about like 50 hours. So you put a 1K resistor in there, and then you're going to run this basically from that 1K resistor. You'll just do two wires to that, and one will go to each side of the LEDs. And then you have to take those two wires and split them again, and those will go to your red and your blue contact on either one of your LED strips. This will make sure that you get power to both sides, as well as that you won't drain your battery too quickly. After you have that all set up, what I did next was I marked a X-Acto knife so that I could cut about a 1/4 of an inch in and an inch up. This is to fit the LED onto the foam so that when we attach the foam to the plexiglass, that it doesn't cover up the light. So the light can now basically sit in this little groove and is pressed up against the plexiglass, and it still shines through. This is cut at the very bottom, so if you look straight up into the sword, you can see the LEDs at the bottom. That should just make sure that we get the maximum light out of it. The next thing I had to do was set up the battery pack. I didn't want an external battery pack because we wanted it all encompassed so it looked nice. So what we realized is that the biggest part is this like butt of the sword right before the hilt, in between the blade and the actual handle of the sword. So what I did is I took EVA foam. I realized it was a little bit smaller than the width of a 9-volt battery. So I cut out 9-volt battery slots in it, just straight through the foam. And I took contacts from other battery packs I had. So I had some AA battery packs sitting around, and they basically had the spring side and the just flat side. I took out the 4 flat sides and I put them I glued them to the bottom of the EVA foam with their little, they have a little nub that sticks off of them, with that towards the plexiglass. I bent that nub down after these were glued in place, and I soldered the contacts, the wires to those contacts. So we're going to have one wire that's going from the positive of one of the batteries to the negative of the other one. So there's just basically one wire going from one side of the plexiglass to the other side on one of the contacts. Then you're going to have one wire coming out from one battery and one wire coming out from the other battery going towards your LEDs. And that's where you're going to have basically your negative one's going to have the 1K resistor that's then going to split, and then it's going to split again. It's going to split and go on either side of the plexiglass, and then it's going to split again to go into the red and the blue contacts on your LED. And the black one, or your positive, from your 2 batteries, is just going to go straight into the positive on your LED strip. After I did that, I epoxied a craft foam sheet right over top of it so that it didn't look like it was there, and we left the top open and put a small craft foam sheet that we painted over top of it so that we could basically peel that back and replace the 9-volt batteries as they ran out of power. Then just filled in the rest of the EVA foam around it and did the handle and attached all the rest of the pieces with epoxy to the sword. After completing this, there was some nubs on the bottom of the sword. I cut out small pieces of plexiglass because I didn't want it to block the light. And I put basically a small square of plexiglass below the nub and then glued the nub to that so that we would still have that same look, but we wouldn't have small lines of where the light wasn't. After doing all of this, I took bonded the whole thing so that it was structurally very secure. That made it also very heavy. There's then these red strips that run down the side of Athena's sword. Our sword, though, is pink, so we painted ours pink. You just attach these. You spray painted the whole sword gray, attach these, and you're done.
Thanks for watching. Again, this is skim.net. I hope you liked our video on how to make the sword from Athena, the Gladiator, in Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Again, if you like what we do here, you can subscribe below, as well as you can follow us on all our little social networks. It's just theskim.net, DOT.net, on all of those. As well as if you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to just put them in the video below, or go to the skim.net with just a .net, the website. You can leave the comments there, and we get back to those all the time. So again, thanks for watching.